And I feel the same way about many founders where they may say, I'm not good at leadership. But the reality is, there's a skill set to leadership. They may not have some of those natural skills, but I can teach them how to be a great leader through giving them some of the frameworks I use, through them watching me and how I communicate and how I lead in businesses. They become strong leaders. This is a really important topic to me. It's almost the most life-changing concept that I've ever learned. And I learned it when I went to see a life coach in my 40s. And I'll tell you a quick story. It's a little personal, but I think it's important. I was, a person that was running from success to success, from goal to goal. And I'll just give you a quick overview of what that looks like. But I was always a person that was competing with how can I do this better? How can I make sure that I'm learning, growing, proving myself, whether it was professionally or personally, meaning it could be running in marathons. My goal was to get under 4 hours. I ran two marathons in under 4 hours, trained for them. And, or it could have been 30 days of Bikram yoga back in the 90s where I did hot yoga for 30 days in a row and continue to on that in that practice for most of my life since. Whether it was to break a 6-minute mile in my 50s when I turned 50, I swore I would break a 6-minute mile. Honestly, it was always something. And then professionally, it was growing in a business from the bottom all the way to president and always going from goal to goal. I was always challenging myself and saying, can I do this better? How do I win at this? How do I become the best version? And a lot of times my success came from just honestly outpacing everyone else in the business. In my 40s, I had a little bit of an anxiety attack, which I didn't really understand what that was because I had always masked a lot of my anxiety by working out, working all the time, and just honestly burying it deep in my soul. I was just a person who decided that anxiety wasn't me. I just was a person who didn't stop. And any of these uncomfortable feelings, well, they were just going to be shoved deep into my soul and I wasn't going to deal with them. And in my 40s, there was a day my daughter was little and I needed to take her to school and I couldn't breathe. I don't know if you've ever felt that way, but I couldn't catch my breath. My husband had already left for work and I was pacing by the pool because she was getting ready and I couldn't catch my breath. So I called my husband and I frantically said, you have to come home because I can't breathe. I need to take Shay to school and I don't want her to know that I can't breathe. I didn't want to show weakness in front of my daughter because I had just swore that my life would look different, that I would parent differently than how I was parented. And so my husband came home. He took my daughter to school. She didn't know what happened. And then he came home and I cried for a couple of hours and finally caught my breath. And I recognized that, wow, this is something I have to deal with. What's going on? On paper, I look like a rock star. I'm running a very big brand. I'm very successful. I mentor young talent. I felt I was at the top of my game. In so many ways, I felt like I was at the top of my game. I was physically in shape. I felt I was taking care of myself from the inside out, but I was still struggling with anxiety and it came up. My body finally said, you have to deal with this. So I decided to see a life coach because I didn't want to see a therapist. I just didn't want to relive my childhood. I didn't want to have a therapist say, okay, tell me about your childhood and let's go back and forth. And an hour would click and then I'd be stuck with all that. And then I have to come back in a week. And I'd looked into life coaching. And I was actually at church when it happened. A lady came in and she spoke and she talked about anxiety. And it kind of was like a big breakthrough for me of, wow, maybe there's another path to kind of solve this because I need to solve this so I can just move on with my life. So I started seeing a life coach and we would meet once a week. And there were a couple of concepts that really transformed how I think about life. And the first one was called a belief window. And one of the things she explained to me that is that between the age of 0 and 7, 7 years old, you form what's called a belief window. And what's in that belief window is how you see the world, just like a window. You see through it. Whatever words are placed on that belief window are the words that you see the world through. So she said, Kelly, I want you to write down some of your beliefs and I want you to do this exercise. And we're going to meet next week and we're going to discuss this belief window. Now, side note, I was a little bit nervous about this exercise, but one of the things I kept saying to her in my coaching was, I need to make sure that my anxiety is not passed on to my daughter. I do not want her to have this anxiety. This is something that is debilitating and I don't want her to have it. And she said, well, once you understand this belief window, you will know that you're not passing that on to her. And so we went through this exercise. I wrote down the words. I came back the following week and, the words of my belief window, again, very personal, but I feel like if I don't share this, I think this is important for people to understand was my mom passed away when I was very young. So it was death, abandonment, addiction, lots of alcoholism and abuse in my family. Um, there was fear. Fear was a big part of my belief system. And there were other things. So my belief window had all of these really limiting beliefs on them. So where most people would cross the street and just go look both ways, I would look both ways again. And then I would be like, okay, I'm going to go. And I think, what's going to happen? Am I going to get hit by this car? I mean, it was really intense. It was sort of like this, it happened very naturally. So it wasn't something that people noticed, but it was happening inside my head. And my head was just going, going, going. And a lot of, how I released or sort of hid from this was I would build companies and that's what I was really good at. And I would do a lot of my own personal growth, but I had never seen a life coach that had or anyone who had ever explained the belief window. And when she said that to me, I said, "Oh my gosh, this makes so much sense." And she said, "Well, as we shift your beliefs, your belief window will change. And the goal is to have more of the positive beliefs and so we can replace, and those beliefs will still be there, but they'll just get further and further away so that you'll start to see the world differently." And she said, "This is why I don't believe you're going to pass your anxiety to your daughter because her life looks so different than your life," which was like, honestly, a breath of fresh air because as a mother, my goal was to make sure my daughter had everything I didn't have, not just material things, really more the love, um, the nurturing, the knowing that she matters, the feeling heard, the encouragement, the opportunities. And so I took a sigh of relief because if I understand things logically, my speed to learning is really quick. If I understand why something's happening, I can shift my behavior really quickly. So we kept going into these meetings, but that was a big pivotal, pivotal breakthrough for me was the belief window. And as I was going through these life coaching sessions, I was learning a lot about my beliefs. And then I was also learning why I was so great at working with founders and leading teams of people because I was naturally always trying to help others move through their beliefs. I didn't really know that's what I was doing, but I would see the best in people and help to shift their view and their belief window about whatever they're going through in their lives and how that might be holding them back in the role that they're in, and the leadership role or any role in the company. And so when I think about belief windows, it's a big thing that I see with founders and entrepreneurs because you form this belief window in the first 7 years of your life. And I also think you form these belief windows in the first 7 years of building a business. And when you build a business, it's always very exciting at the beginning because there's growth, there's excitement. And then there's this radical sort of recognition that it's not always going to be rainbows and unicorns, and some things are going to go wrong, and other beliefs start to form. And there are beliefs that we carry with ourselves that can transform how we run a business. I'll give you a few. I talk to many founders, and one of the first beliefs that they share with me is that I'm not a good leader. they're not a good leader. They say, I'm not a good leader. I shouldn't be leading my business. And I think that's why my business is not growing. It's not evolving because I shouldn't be at the helm of my business. And then another belief that they share with me is that I'm not a good manager. I'm not good at managing people. I'm not good at setting people up for success in my business. And another one is I'm not good at numbers. I'm a creative person. I can't look at numbers. So finance is not my strength. And so one of the things I do when I work with them is we help overcome those beliefs because I said I believe anyone can be a great leader. It's a skill set. There are some that are more natural leaders and that comes more naturally to them. There's no question. Just like some people are great writers, some people are just naturally great at math. But I will tell you, math was my weakest subject. And I think I'm exceptional at finance, business finance now, because I changed my belief around I'm not good at math. And I decided I'm gonna be great at math, and I found a way to learn about finance in a way that is exciting and interesting to me, and it's a muscle that I learned and I built. And I feel the same way about many founders where they may say, "I'm not good at leadership," but the reality is there's a skill set to leadership. They may not have some of those natural skills, but I can teach them how to be a great leader through giving them some of the frameworks I use, through them watching me and how I communicate and how I lead in businesses, they become strong leaders because it's a muscle that you just need to work. It may not be ultimately where they want to be in the business, but they have to be able to attract talent and retain talent as a leader in a business if they want to grow their business. And so it is a necessary skill for founders and entrepreneurs to understand how to be great leaders and be able to learn those frameworks and become good at it. Just like it's important for founders and entrepreneurs to know their numbers. And I know I talk about this a lot, but this is another thing that is really important. So I'll sit with founders and say, how do you see the business now? And I'll work with their finance team to build views of the business so that they feel comfortable with the numbers and they start to understand what the numbers are telling them. And so belief windows can really hold you back in life if you're not aware of the fact that you can change these things. You can actually change your belief window, both personally and professionally. Now, there's a quick note. I got my life coaching certification. After I did life coaching for a year, I got a wild hair and said, I want to become a life coach because I think those skill sets will help me when I'm working with executives and working with talent in general. I think everyone's bringing their beliefs to the business, and I want to be able to be a resource for that business and be able to help them solve that and help them move through their belief windows and create beliefs that are going to move their business forward. Beliefs like I am a strong leader and I attract talent and I understand my numbers and I know how to tell the stories around them. And I help to empower people and businesses. And whatever those beliefs are, my job when I go into a business as an advisor is to help those founders transform their beliefs because sometimes those beliefs are the very things that are holding them back. And they can also be beliefs that are tied to old stories, meaning in the first 7 years, you've had some wins and you did things a certain way in your business. You analyzed things a certain way. You designed a certain way. You created a certain way. You had people in your business that were, and all of a sudden your business is not performing, but those beliefs are still sort of anchored in your decision making. And so my role is to understand how to change and pull that anchor up and say, okay, this is holding your business back. Let's shift this belief because it's one of the biggest things holding your business back, and let's move this business forward. So a lot of times people think that these belief windows are just, personal beliefs, but you can also create belief windows within your business. And I see that a lot. And so that's one of the reasons why I think I'm really successful in turning around underperforming businesses because I'm able to help to identify those beliefs that are holding businesses back. And those are soft skills that many advisors and consultants don't have, but I have them. And I think it's one of the gifts I have from struggling with anxiety and not really calling it that, but just kind of dumping it into overachiever syndrome and then recognizing that my body was, holding on to a lot of that and then solving that through my life coaching and then having a sort of ongoing curriculum personally of always being introspective and looking at where am I in my beliefs and are my beliefs holding me back? And I am certainly not perfect, but I am constantly striving to be better and better at those things. And I think that's one of the strengths that I have that many don't, which is understanding that concept. And so I wanted to share this today because I think it's something that as you go into next year, and you're, closing your budgets, which you should be already, and you're thinking about how you're going to grow your business, or if you're a struggling business and you're thinking about how you're going to save your business, I would challenge you to look at your beliefs about your business. And some of those might be beliefs that are personal beliefs as well that are holding you back. And I would challenge you to ask yourself a question as to, are those beliefs serving you? And are they helping create the results in your life and in your business that you want? And if they're not, I would challenge you to write some new beliefs down and start to think about how those beliefs could serve you better. And what would that look like when it comes to taking action in your business? And what would that look like when it comes to, leading your business or whatever it may be? I would challenge you to do that as you go into next year, because I can just tell you that most of you probably have some of those beliefs that are holding you back. And I see that it's not really just a founder and entrepreneurship window. Everyone has one. It's just not everyone is introspective to look at that and say, how do I solve that? They just think it's all of these tangible things that are holding their business back, but sometimes it's the very decisions or the indecisions that are holding your business back. So I'll leave you with that note. I strongly suggest that you do this exercise where you can write down your beliefs, kind of sit with them, and then look at the beliefs that aren't serving you. And then start thinking about beliefs that you could trade with those and start sort of creating a new belief window as you go into next year for your business and for your life. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you soon.